friends.
Hello.
Karen's back. Yay. All right, friends. Guess who's back?
I'm back. And if you're watching on video, I have a lot less weight on me because I cut off most of my hair. So you might see a little
10
change.
pounds?
Probably about 10 pounds, yes. So that's fun. Very exciting.
Yeah, it's fun. Her hair grows ridiculously fast.
It does. I think it's already grown 2 inches since I cut it.
Yeah, that's
know.
fun. We're just glad
Anyway.
Karen's moved in.
I am moved in. I'm not yet fully organized.
I was going to say
That's
probably
take
not settled.
a while, but we're getting there. So.
Do you enjoy organizing?
I don't, but my
Okay.
mom is helping me, and she's like a master at it, and so she's like every step of the way, like, okay, where should we do this? And this is what we do. She's got all these ideas, so it's so nice.
That's
I'm
fun.
loving that part, but it's not my best
Not your favorite.
quality.
No.
No.
Well, we are excited to be back. We took a break last week from talking about curriculum, and we're going to take another break this week, and then we're going to dive back into more curriculum ideas next week. But
This is one
fun.
I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, and I'll tell you kind of the background story to it. I pulled out an old journal the other day,
That's right.
a couple weeks ago, and I was reading through it, and I just love reading through like old entries to my kids about them when they were little. And I came across one when I had recently started homeschooling. And there was one about me starting, how scared I was, but the one I loved was a little while later, and it was talking about how much homeschooling had changed me. And it was so cool to me to read through those thoughts that I had more than a decade ago, of what it was doing to me. And I loved it so much. And I didn't expect that. That's not why I started homeschooling. I did it for my kids.
Yeah.
But I love that added benefit of the things that it's done for me and how it's made me a better person.
Yes, that's what, as a lot of people have said, like, oh, it's such a huge sacrifice, or this has been so hard. And now we're all these years in, I'm like, this hasn't been a sacrifice at all. Because
well,
of all.
It has in a lot of ways.
But
if
like
you look at what you're
sacrifice.
missing out. But I think, when you think about parenting and how I always think about myself before having kids or even before getting married. Okay. And it's all about you. Everything's about you. And all the choices you make are about you. And you're kind of selfish. I mean, not intentionally, but you just are because that's what your life is focused on. And then you get married and you add another person into the mix and you have to start thinking more about them and caring more about them. And it's the same with having children. Each child you add, it changes your life exponentially, right? And it adds this extra layer of work, of responsibility. And I think that makes you stronger in so many ways. Like each little bit that you add to yourself makes you stronger. And so I think of homeschooling kind of in that same way where,
yes.
It's just this added layer of responsibility. And when you add more to you, it makes you better.
Well, so yes, it was a sacrifice, but it doesn't feel like a sacrifice now because of everything I've gained from it.
Yeah.
So I think like the hindsight, right? Like when you review something. So both our husbands served a mission for our church. And so my husband, a lot of people say, oh, what a sacrifice. And he goes, was it? Because I gained so much. Like I would do it all over again because of what I got from it. And so I feel the same way about homeschooling. Like definitely at the beginning, it felt like a humongous sacrifice.
Yeah, and there are definitely days still where I'm like, why am I doing this? It's so hard sometimes. And I look at those moms that send their kids off to school, and I'm like, I want 5 hours alone to clean my house, right? I don't get that ever. And so sometimes it feels so huge still, but then you have to weigh it with the benefits and with the things that you're gaining from it. And so that's I want to talk about not the benefits on the kids today, but the benefits for us.
Yes.
And how many there are and how much it's changed me. And Megan, I'm sure, feels the same way.
Very much so.
And I have noticed that growth in myself. It was fun to read that little journal entry, but I've also paid attention to it over the years. And I think a huge part of it for me has been the friendships that I've been able to create and what I've learned from the other moms that are homeschooling alongside me.
Well, I think that's so part of not only did homeschooling has had a lot of benefits for me personally, but the people I became surrounded with. Because Johnny and I were talking the other day. How long have we been friends now? Do you remember? We couldn't remember. Like I was guessing 8 years.
Maybe 8 or 9 years.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when we met. I'm not sure.
Well, like at a.
Is it one of our co-ops?
It was a co-op.
I don't remember which one and which year. I was actually talking about that with my kids the other day, too.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not sure if Megan was in Friday. Were you in Friday Fun?
Yes.
Okay, were you in...
Strive.
Strive was after Friday Fun.
Yes, and then you left for FLA, and I came the next year.
Yes,
where
we were just talking
been
about
ever
It's
since.
been a long time. Those are the names of some of our co-ops over the years.
Yes. So,
Anyway.
but like the women that I've been able to surround myself by, like around, they are all trying to be better humans, better wives, better mothers, better educators, like better for the world.
And so
like,
we're constantly telling each other these things,
Yes.
these little nuggets of like goodness. Like we have a little group me
Yes.
of, what is it called?
What
Gems
is it
Worth
called?
Sharing
Yes.
or something like that now that a lot of us have joined. And it's just like anytime there's something beautiful.
Here's this book. I just
Here's
love
a book
this
I loved. Here's a great sale on grapes. Here's
Yeah,
a, you
that
know,
was
like all
one.
these little fun details that are like, here's a way to make our lives better in some way.
Yes.
And it's been so beautiful to learn from each other and grow together. And I feel like as a whole, this group of women that I've been able to be friends with over this past decade has elevated me over the years. But homeschooling is the core of that and the meat of that's helped us do that.
Well, yes, and then a lot of these women are the same women in our learning circle group we've talked about. And so, like, that even adds a different layer of more elevation because they're all homeschoolers and they're all trying to be better. And what I love is that, like, they are vulnerable and, like, I totally have weaknesses. And here's, like, something amazing going on in my life.
And then we each give our little pointers of, like, here's how we do this and how we can help. And, you know, we're always constantly lifting each other, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
So I have a whole list of ways that homeschooling has made me better.
Let's dive in. This
that
is
we
fun
can dive
because
into,
I know a lot of you are first timers, and maybe it's feeling like, why am I doing this? Like, is this really worth it?
Will I do it next year when if life goes back to normal?
Wouldn't my life be better if I wasn't doing this? Like, is it really worth it? I think is what it boils down to.
So here's what I've learned in my life, and you can
what you
share
in our
also.
2 cents for you.
I think one of the biggest things is that I've increased my knowledge. And I always thought of myself as a pretty intelligent person. I always did well in school. School was never a big, hard thing for me. I liked it. But I think homeschooling has just brought that to a whole new level because I am constantly having to teach my kids these things.
Yeah.
And so it's just drilling it into me. And I know so much more than I ever used to. And I love that.
Yes, I even think things, so I've always liked math, but I didn't understand certain concepts, like fractions. I was like, nobody really needs to know fractions, right? And then when I had to teach it to my kids, I thought, that's right, I love math. Like, I think math is fun because 2 + 2 always equals 4. There's no, like, subjectiveness to it.
Yeah.
And so, like, it sparked things that I had kind of pushed down, like, it's nerdy to like that. Or when I got to high school, I was more about the social part. Like, I couldn't care less about grades. Like, obviously, if you saw my report card, you're like, oh, you graduated, congrats. But, like, all these things I didn't even know I had a passion for were rekindled.
Yeah, and for me, it's done that, but also given me passion for new things that I didn't know I loved before. And so that's been really cool for me. Like, I have learned to love math, and I have learned to really love history more than I used to. I liked history in school, but it was never like my favorite, but now I love it. And it's just so cool to see how much more you can love learning and how much you can increase your knowledge through doing it.
Yes, and so especially when my kids were littler, because I've now read a bunch of the books my kids read, but I wanted to always have read them so we could talk about them.
Yeah.
Or like every blue moon, I'd have them read one before me, and they're like, that was a naughty book. And I'd be like, oh, sorry, friends.
I know.
Like, I didn't know how to pick good books yet. But so like I would pre-read. So I was reading so many good books and the same books as them. And it was like, oh, we got to read this one. This one's super exciting. And so just like my excitement for learning, like my ability to retain what I'm learning because I actually care about it. I don't have to pass a test. I just get to read and study it because I want to.
Yeah, so true. So next, I am a lot more careful about the things I bring into my home, because I'm always striving to create an environment of learning and safety for my family because we're always here. And so I'm really choosy about the books that come into our home and the movies and, you know, the media, any of those kinds of things, and even the people that we bring into our home, just because I want our home to always feel like a learning environment.
And I think, too, a safe haven. I want it to be a safe haven from the store. And I want to say it was a homeschool mom, just did a huge rant not too long ago about Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I actually, my older kids, I had allowed them to read Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and they got them to love reading, and they thought it was super fun and super exciting. And the more that I got into homeschooling, I actually got rid of the books, and I threw them all out. And Charlotte Mason calls them twaddle. So I slowly got rid of my twaddle books.
Me too.
And
I didn't understand that in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, oh, they're books. Books are good.
Yeah, like, books are good. My kids are reading.
I didn't think about the content of the books so much as just the fact that they're reading and they're books. And yeah, same thing as the more I learned and understood there's good books and there's not so good books. There are books that are, fill your mind in better ways. I did the same thing where I was cleaning out, I was cleaning out my cartoon character-y board books and collecting more classic board books, and even from a little age for my kids and things like that.
And it's funny to me is so my younger kids who have never had Diary of a Wimpy Kid, they don't even know that they're missing something. And the other ones were like, oh, those were super funny, but they didn't leave a lasting impression on them. But one of my kids is reading Pollyanna right now, and an older kid was like, oh, Pollyanna.
I know, right? They have these fond memories of the
Glad
stories.
Game. I love the Glad Game. Oh, Pollyanna's so good. And so there are so many books out there. So why waste your time with the junky ones?
Definitely.
So I don't know, I just didn't even read before, but I am very intentional for myself what I read and what then I bring into my home as well.
Yeah. Next, and this is a ever learning process, but I have learned a lot of patience and self-control from homeschooling. One of the reasons people always say that they can't homeschool or would never homeschool is because they say they don't have enough patience.
I think.
And I always laugh at that one because I don't think I'm necessarily the most patient person. I mean, I'm fine. I'm normal. I try. But it's one of those things I'm always learning and always trying to be better at. But I do think it's really increased my capacity to just handle more.
Well, I think what it does with homeschooling is brings all parenting problems to a head. Because, if you have a kid you struggle with, but you don't really see them Monday through Friday, and Saturdays-ish because, games or, you know what I mean, activities going on. So you really don't have to see them on Sundays and a little bit in between. You're just you don't deal with certain things. He's kind of a butt, but I just don't face those things. But when you're homeschooling, it's
it's always there.
You're here, and we're going to do this. So I think that's a huge reason why I brought parenting into my membership is because it brings everything up. And so it's okay, we're going to learn how to clean up after ourselves. We're going to learn some basic skills. And so, that's why I have the no yelling group, right? Because it's really hard to homeschool if you're yelling at your kids all the time. And so for me, I've learned, a lot of that self-control with, first of all, not yelling, and then taking it a step further of really connecting with them.
Definitely, yeah.
And, doing those types of things.
So, and then along the lines of self-control, I always think about the fact that, I'm the only one that I have to report to with their schooling. And so it's really pushed me to recognize, okay, it's all on me. Yeah. Sorry, that kind of stumbled out. It's all on me, and it's only me that is going to make this happen. And so I've had to really discipline myself and keep a regimented or a schedule for the most part. It's not super regimented, but I try to keep a pretty regular and consistent schedule to make sure that things are happening and that our routine is happening daily.
Yes, I think I actually would be the opposite end, where I would be anal retentive on time.
Oh, yeah?
And homeschooling has helped me to relax.
That's interesting.
So having a new baby and being able to say, it's okay, we're not going to do school today. Having something pop up. So I'm pretty good to this is our school time. I don't answer my phone. I don't answer the door. This is school time. It's sacred time. But I also had swung pretty nope, this is school time. Get out of here. This is what we're doing. So it's helped me to relax, which is what I needed to work on of okay, people aren't enjoying this lesson. We're going to toss this bad boy out.
Yeah.
This isn't working. We're not going to do it. People are crying now. Let's move along.
I love that. It's helped me to be more creative and try new things.
Which is your whole site.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, and that's actually what inspired it all to begin with was, just sharing the fun things that we're doing, and that's where it all began,
Yes, and I think it's helped me to see education in a different way, in a different light. Like, well, for hundreds of years or even like 100 years, this is how education has been.
Right.
And like, we're just going to do it because somebody else did it. And I was just listening to a podcast, Well Educated Heart, and she was talking about this wife always cut the ends off of her roast. And her husband said, like, why did you cut the ends off your roast? And she's like, I don't know, my mom always did. So they asked the mom, funny. Like, why did you cut the ends off? I don't know, my mom always did. And grandma came in town and they said, why do you cut the ends off your roast? And she said, because my roast pot wasn't big enough. So like, people sometimes go through things and don't ever question it. Yeah. Like, oh, that's what we do.
That's funny.
And so I think
that's how school has been. Yeah, and I agree with that it's really pushed me to think outside the box and to recognize, it doesn't have to be done a certain way.
My kids don't need to take a test to know that they've done something.
Yeah.
Like, they can just study something for fun, and they'll actually probably remember it more because they wanted to learn it in the first place. Definitely, right?
Definitely.
So I think
that kind of leads into my next point is that it's made me feel braver.
Yeah.
Because I've had to stand up for myself in these choices that I've made that are out of the box and different from what most people do. And I think it's given me a lot of confidence to just like, this is who I am, you know?
Yes, because I've talked before that I was a closet homeschooler for a very long time. And I didn't want any neighbors to know I homeschooled, like, until they got to know us. Like, let them get to know us. So if we ever moved somewhere, I'm like, let them get to know us before we tell them that we're homeschoolers, right?
It's funny.
And so, yes, definitely took a while to get past that of not allowing other people's thoughts or words affect how I raise my children and what I choose to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's helped me to build stronger family relationships and to be more involved in the details of my children's lives. And I love that so much. I love the connection that we have in our home, and that my kids are comfortable coming to me and talking to me about their lives.
You know, I think even on top of that, I feel like I even have a strong relationship with my children's friends.
Yeah.
So last night, some teens were over, right? And one of them was graduated, and it was funny. I was asking all of these kids, like, what grade are you? They're like, I don't know. And like, so they were all high school age or post high school age, and they were kind of giving me the rundown. So I was sitting in the living room, and I was just sitting in a chair, and they all gathered there. And I thought, like, oh, I'm not trying to be the weird mom who's like all hip and cool with the teens. But they gathered around me, and I thought, oh, this is funny that they feel so comfortable.
Yeah.
That like, it's not weird for homeschoolers to hang out with other people's moms.
And I think that in other situations it is. You know?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, my mom's so dumb. Let's go somewhere else.
Talk to your mom. That's weird. Yeah.
Yes. Instead, it was like this super fun, natural, like we all laughed that nobody knew what grade they were in. Like that, I just think that was hilarious. I don't know. This is what I'm doing. But yes, but the family relationships, and I think that's my husband's biggest, that's his biggest reason of being a huge advocate for homeschooling, is the change that it has made for our family. Of having teens who want to be home, having kids who open up and tell you what's going on in their life.
Siblings who get along with each other.
Yes. Like, can I get a hallelujah for that one? Yeah, like, that's huge. That's like statistically your longest relationship is with your siblings. And so I think what a joy to have them be your really good friends. Yeah. That one's awesome.
And then along with that, I think is just the peaceful home environment that creates. And we're used to just being together. And so there's normal little contention here and there, but for the most part, it's just peaceful and it's calm and it's normal.
What was that funny video that came out during COVID? And it was a grown man but had been homeschooled as a child and was like, being able to just be alone. Got what's that called? A Rubik's Cube for my birthday when I was homeschooled. Spent 2 weeks in my room and I was fine. Like, my mom could make a gourmet meal out of all these random ingredients, right?
That's funny.
And so, but like that peaceful home environment, they know how to be home. They know how to entertain themselves.
Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest things. Like with the COVID, I was watching all the moms going crazy with having their kids around them all the time. And these kids didn't know how to just be home. And I was really grateful that we already knew that and could do that without any problems. And actually really kind of enjoyed the quiet and less stuff going on.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I knew where everybody was during dinner time. Like there was no activities and whatnot.
Yeah, so nice.
It was really cool.
Homeschooling has made me a more competent mother just in so many ways. And I think all these kind of go along with that. But it's just, I think it's just made me more aware and more just, I don't know, just better in so many ways.
I think for me, it's more intentional.
Yeah.
Because that was, and my daughter teases me about this because somebody will ask me, like, what's your favorite? And Bella's like, does it serve a purpose? Like, what is the goal of this food? Like, would you eat this if it doesn't nourish your body? Like, so she was teasing me, like, that's an extreme, right?
Everything has to have a purpose.
Yeah, but like, I'm intentional with the books we read. I'm intentional with the music we play. I'm intentional with the foods we eat and all that stuff. So it's I think for me it's made me a much more intentional mother, and that goes along with like what the movies are in your home and the all those things, the language allowed in your home and all those types of things. But I feel like I'm a much more intentional mother of what am I trying to create.
Yeah.
And I can create it because everybody's here, and like so I have the ability to create it.
Yeah, love that. And then the final one is just that constant awareness of what my kids are learning and what they need in their lives. And you can have just that daily check-in with them and always just know, where they are, what level they're at, where they're struggling or not. And being in school, you don't have that consistent check-in with them and that ability to do that.
Well, I think what's interesting too is that maybe a kid who struggles with math just needs to slow down and then it's not a struggle anymore. Or same with the kid with reading, like, oh, you just need the glasses. You're not behind. And so I think that awareness is beautiful. Like, it's such a gift for your kids because there's no level that you need to be on.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh, like you excel in this area. Let's go for it. Like, let's do something amazing with it. Like, oh, you need to slow down. Awesome. Let's slow down.
Yeah.
So I think it's that there's just so many beautiful things that I didn't realize that I would gain from homeschooling. Like, what a gift it's been.
Same. And I love it. And I love that I was able to come across that little note to myself someday, just that past little journal entry that just really helped me recognize it more. And I hope that you guys, as you're homeschooling your own kids, that you can start to see beautiful things like this come about as well.
Yes. So we love you guys and hope you have a fantastic day.